So, hello everyone. I am Abel. I am a final year student from NIT Rourkela, as you all know. The purpose of this session is to give you all an overview of how some of the packages work under the hood, because almost everything that we are going to cover in this particular session is something that can be done using different packages, using one-liner packages. But that is something that we want you all to understand how those packages work, because at some point in time, those packages will not give you the intended results. You might have to tweak the results a bit and to modify the result of a package to your customization. One of the things that you can do is look into the package's code and understand how it works. And what we're trying to cover is the inside code of those packages, the very basics of that. So let's begin. Is the screen visible? Page 2.
It's visible where?
Okay. Yeah, thanks. So first things first, what to expect. In this 1 hour, you are not going to become an image processing expert. So don't expect me to make your PhD in image processing. But still, you will have a very good clarity on some of the topics that I have mentioned. How images are stored in a storage, like we are able to see an image in multiple colors, and how it is actually stored in the hard disk. The second point that I want to cover is what are the roles of matrices, like how are images and matrices related. Third is color spaces. We'll get to that very soon. And the fourth and the fifth is how to manipulate an image and the code of it. We will do hands-on exercise on how the code works. So not just showing the code and telling you it works. We will do it in practice. Good to go. So this is a code that I had read while learning linear algebra, and this is something that is very much true. The entire world can be mapped as a matrix. So anything that you see, anything that can be measured, can fundamentally be represented as a matrix, and to be abstract, it can be a 2D matrix. Like you can take an image, uh, the coordinate and the colors can be represented in a matrix. Uh, if it's a 3D world and you want to use a 2D matrix, even that is possible. That you can have each element of the matrix uh, be one of the dimensions. So even higher dimensions of matrices, which look frightening, can be understood in terms of 2D matrix. So an example could be, it's like if a 2D matrix is representing a car, a 3D matrix can be considered like each element of the matrix is a car. So in a matrix, even a single element can be a matrix in itself. So that's how you can understand how higher dimensions of matrices work. But we won't be covering higher dimensions as of now. Just a second, we have someone trying to join. So those of you who are new to linear algebra and you want to learn how it works, this is a course that I have done and it is pretty good. I am not advertising the course. You can learn from any other platform if you want. By MIT OpenCourseware, and it is free, and it is there on YouTube. And it covers the basic knowledge of all the topics that you want to know. So just an information. So let's begin. The first step that we want to cover is how we decode an image that is stored in a hard disk or wherever it is, or pen drive, and get the information out of it. The first section that I'm covering is something known as color spaces. we have numerous colors, and we want to have a way to represent those colors using some representation that is easy to understand. So this particular color model is named RGB. The A is in bracket because A is optional. A stands for alpha. RGB stands for red, green, and blue. So I have put some terms over here which might look intimidating to few. I'll explain. First point that I am trying to say is it's additive. The meaning of additive is we can see that on the graph, on the image at right, we have the red and the red and the green getting mixed, and it's producing a yellow color. That is happening because that's the sum of those two colors. The same happens for red plus blue, that is giving magenta, and green plus blue, that is giving cyan. This is preferred for digital display, and you might have known that the LCD screens, the mobile screens, and everything we have, those are made of small pixels, and the primary colors of the pixels are red, green, and blue. And using these three light sources and mixing them in proper ratio, we can get any color that we want. So suppose I'm mixing red light and green light in equal proportion, I'll be getting yellow. If I reduce the proportion of green or increase the proportion of red, the color will be more reddish towards orange side. Third point is transparency support. So RGBA can support transparency, meaning you see the image at the lower where I have drawn some blocks, and that blocks is overlapping the upper image black part. That is because the lower image has some area that is transparent, and the image that is behind this particular image can pass through it. This particular thing is something which can be done only in digital display, because from common sense it's pretty evident that it's difficult to have the color space manage transparency for us, because you can't paint something and it becomes transparent. This is something that can be done only in a digital display. And the fourth point, human eyes are not equally sensitive to all colors. So we'll cover this when we go to the further sections. It has been studied and confirmed that our human eyes are most sensitive to green. So it's not that we sense red, blue, and green equally. What it means is that if a low, not frequency, if a low amplitude light hits our eyes and all of the three colors lights are coming, our eyes will have the maximum sensation for green. We'll use this principle when we come to the further section. And in RGBA, we have to understand that the colors are formed by sources of light. Like those LEDs or light sources, those are getting mixed and forming the colors. And how to show the black. So in RGBA standard, we show black by turning off the light source. It's as simple as that. If you want to show black, you turn off the light source. That's how it works. And that's how even AMOLED displays advertised, because you get pure black because it's an LED display. So that is almost everything about RGBA color space. The A is optional, so it can either be RGB or RGBA. So when we are saving the files as JPEG or JPEG, always RGB. It does not support transparency. So PNG is a file format which supports transparency. Same image can be stored in different formats in RGB and RGBA. Next is CMYK. It stands for cyan, magenta, yellow, black. Yeah. Hello. Hello? Audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, perfect. So cyan, magenta, yellow, black. The first point that I mentioned is it's subtractive. So we'll get to that at the end of this section. Cyan, magenta, yellow, black is preferred only for print media because it has multiple limitations. The number of colors that you can represent using CMYK is a bit less than RGB. And one of the points that you might have seen is that we have 4 channels here. We have cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. K stands for key, which is the equivalent of black. So K is equal to black in this CMYK representation. So if you mix colors using crayons, using yellow, magenta, and cyan, you will get a blackish color. But still, we have a separate key for black. This is because 2 points. You cannot generate pure black by mixing all this. We usually get something which is very close to dark brown, not exact black, because theories don't work to the very extent in practical life. And second point is to save ink, because if you want to print black, you have to use all the 3 inks to get a particular pixel from 3 different ink toners. And if you have a separate black ink, you can directly use that. So that saves the ink as well. And coming to how to show white, because we don't have white in this color space, and we can see that in RGB color space, things are adding up and becoming black. In RGB color space, things are adding up and becoming white. In CMYK color space, things are getting mixed and becoming black. We don't have white here. So the way white is done is you don't print any color. This is obvious when you're using white paper, but using print media, and suppose the paper is yellow or pink or something, it's almost impossible to print white. To print white on a non-white paper is very difficult unless you have a separate white ink. And coming to the subtractive point, so how
Maybe the
accurate
slides are not visible.
slides are not visible?
They are visible.
Visible.
It's all right. I'll share once again. No issues. What can you all see now?
Yeah.
Can you see the CMYK page?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Can you see the yellow caption?
Yes.
Okay, so it's working. So in CMYK, it's subtractive. So I was explaining subtractive effect. So the way we perceive colors is if something is red, it is because it's absorbing all the colors except red. Works fine? Yeah. So that's the basics. So now let us have 2 filters. The first is red, and after red, we have, let's say, orange. Orange, if I'm not wrong, is red plus yellow. Okay. So the stage 1 is red filter. The stage 2 is orange filter. Suppose light is coming from the other end towards your eyes. The first filter, everything is absorbed except red. So red passes through and comes to the orange filter. When it comes to the orange filter, because it's composed of yellow plus red filter, so it passes the red color and you see the red light. The incoming was white light, you are seeing the red light. Now we flip the filters. The first filter is an orange filter. The second filter is a red filter. So the light comes, passes the orange filter, and after it passes, it's orange colored. After it passes the red filter, the yellow part is removed because the red filter absorbs everything except red. So as you can see, as we have multiple colors adding up, things are getting filtered out, not adding up. That's the difference between CMYK print media and RGB. In RGB, we are using sources of light and they're getting mixed and giving the additive effect. Whereas in CMYK, it acts as filters and it gets filtered out. And that's why it's used in printing, because those colors on the paper act as filters. And on the bottom, I have given a very small photo of a newspaper which has those 4 bands. So it's used in printing, and you can see in almost all newspapers and majority print media. So these colors are used to align the paper before they are printed so that things overlap over each other. Multiple colors overlap over each other and give the actual effect that is intended. This is a website which you all can refer. It's COOLORS.co. What I'm trying to make you understand is the hex codes. So the colors are represented for us to understand in hex codes. Internally, it is stored in binary. So we have the color segment divided into 3 parts. It's RGB. If we have alpha channel, it's RGBA, and some of the softwares use ARGB. So the first channel will be transparency. So let us understand how RGB works. So if we see the color on the very left, it has the code FFBE86. So red equal to FF, and FF in hexadecimal is equivalent to 255 in decimal. So that is the maximum value that can be encoded in this red channel. The same goes for the second channel, that is green, that is BE, and the third, that is blue. So you can see that the last color is bluish by just looking at it. And you can see that the code has the maximum value for blue, which is the third channel, which is FF. FF is maximum and it starts at 0. So 0 to FF. So it can have maximum of 256 possible values, which ranges from 0 to 255. And 256 is 2 power 8. So in binary, it's 1 byte or 8 bit. Make sense? Yeah. So to represent one color channel, we need 8 bits. So if we include the RGB, it becomes 8 into 3, it becomes 24 bit. To represent one pixel, like a pixel like 3777 FF, the last color, if you have a 1 pixel of that size, it is going to have 24 bits. And if we include transparency, it becomes one more additional 8 channels and it becomes 32 bits. And that's how the image's size is calculated on a very basic level. On top of it, we have compression, which we are not including. So if we are not including compression, 1 pixel is going to consume 24 bit on a 3 channel one. Or if you are using 4 channel using transparency, it's going to consume 32 bits per pixel. Yeah. So those RGB and CMYK is how colors are modeled in the internal softwares. But we as humans use terms like we need a lighter color of the same shade or a darker color, So you can see the middle color channel that I have tried to show. Each part is divided into similar colors of different lightness. It starts from the white and goes all the way down to black. So this is something that is represented by a different color channel, color model known as HSL or HSB or HSV. These are multiple notations that are used in different softwares. I'll try to explain it. So H stands for hue. So hue is the equivalent of color. So the entire color space is represented by hue. Saturation is how bright the color is. And brightness is if you're having an element of whiteness or black. Yeah. So L stands for lightness, B stands for brightness, and V stands for value. All the three are very similar, but not exactly same. HSB and HSV, brightness and value. These are the same thing, but written in different formats at different places. We have then HSL, which is a bit different. The reason why we use this is because it makes things more intuitive. Because for us, we choose a color, we want to change the darkness or brightness of it, and it's easy for us humans to modify the images to understand how the images work in HSB color model. This is an extension of RGB. All the colors that are represented using RGB hex code can be converted to this. And this is something that is done for the intermediate work. The images are going to store in RGB. You can process it in RGB. You can process it by converting it to HSB because it's easy for us all to understand. And then you save it again back into the CMYK or RGB or whichever according to the need. But HSB is not a format which is used to save the files to, because it's not easy for computers to store it. So the hue value is taken as an angle. It goes from 0 to 360. It starts at red at 0, takes around and comes back to red again at 360. So different values of the angle from 0 to 360 gives different colors. Saturation goes from 0 to 1. So towards the inside of the cylinder that we have, it is less saturated, so the colors are less bright. And then in the brightness one and the value one or the lightness one, it ranges from 0 to 1. The difference is in value, we have 0 as black and value equal to 1 as the maximum possible saturation for the color. Sorry, as a maximum possible value for the color. For the lightness one, it ranges from black to white. So if you want to have the true color, you need to have lightness equal to 0.5. Apart from this, small difference, HSB, HSL and HSV are completely same. The difference is it starts at black and goes to white in one, and the other one it goes from black to the full value of the color. Now let's come to channels. We have been using this term for quite a long time. So we have seen that we can use RGB model to represent an image or a pixel. So those independent segments of the color space is something that is known as channels. So those are independent. The alpha channel is used for transparency. So if it is alpha channel at full value, we will have the images transparent and it is see-through. The channel value ranges from 0 to 255 in 8-bit. So to explain, let us assume we have a hypothetical image of 10-bit. So it will range from 0 to 1023. So if we represent red as 1023 in 10-bit and red as 255 in 8-bit, those two will look the same. It does not mean that if we increase the number of bits, the colors will become bright. It's just that we are dividing the range from black to red into 255 segments in 8-bit, or if you're using 10-bit, we are dividing the range from black to red into 1024 segments. It's not that the colors are becoming bright when we increase the number of bits in the channel.
Why is bits related to color?
Sorry? Could you repeat? I heard someone asking a question. Or was it? Am I not audible? I am.
How many of you the screen is not visible or he is not audible? Can you please comment the message?
We have Harry Potter telling that I am not audible.
Yes.
Yeah, no, you're audible now.
Visible and audible, we have Rishabh confirming.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, even I can hear and see him. Good. Go ahead.
That I am audible because I am on 2 devices. So that was yeah. So one of the points that I wanted to mention is all colors that are visible to us that are in our range don't take the entire electromagnetic spectrum and take gamma rays are not representable using this system. We are just focusing on the visible color range. They can be represented using 3 channels. So it's CMYK, HSB, RGB. We just need 3 numbers to get a value of the color. Not more than that. If you're using grayscale, or we call it as black and white, we just need 1 channel. We don't need to have 3 channels because we just want to know how black a pixel is. We can represent grayscale in multiple channels. So let us assume that in grayscale a pixel's value is 128 or half gray because it's between 0 and 255. So if you are representing in 3 channels, it will have the value 128 in all the 3 channels. The 3 channels will have redundant values. So we can represent grayscale values in multiple channels, but it is a waste of memory. But the right side of the image is something that shows how channels work. So we have 8th image, 8th image is the actual image. And when printing is done, we have 1 printing plate for each color channel. So we first print the yellow plate, on top of it we print the magenta plate and the cyan plate, and then the black plate. And that's how different channels are merged together to get the image. So this is an example of how it is done. Just a thing that I missed earlier. Remember I mentioned that we are more sensitive to green light. The bottom representation is something that is taken from the pixel board of majority displays. So we can see that the very bottom row we have green and blue alternating. On the top we have green and red alternating. So if we take any random space, we have twice the number of green than red or blue. And this is done intentionally because we are more sensitive to green light. And that's an example of how we perceive it. So let us move on. Matrix and images, how are the two related? The first point, let us assume that we have the image in the top left and we want to describe it. That's how the image is. If we are describing it to a human, we can say it's divided into 4 parts. The first is a reddish color, the second is a greenish color, and the bottom 2 are a shade of violet or purple. If you want to quantify it, we can use the hex color codes, which is something that is used by us. And as mentioned earlier, internally these hex color codes are stored in binary because it's easier for computers to compute in binary. So these are the values that I have calculated. Those are the exact pixel values in hex code. So this is something that you can give to anyone. Let's assume that you give the second image with these 4 color codes to anyone, and they can regenerate the image from it. So suppose we have a matrix, it stores these values. So from this matrix, we can regenerate the image. And that's the basics of how a matrix can be used to represent an image. To simplify things, we can see that we have D70,000 as the first pixel value. So you can store in matrix the hex code directly, but since we manage different colors separately, what is done is we have an array of 3 elements, which will have the first element as red, the second element as green, the third element as blue. So we will have a 2D matrix. Each element represents 1 pixel, and each element that is representing the pixel has a small array which is representing red, green, and blue. If you have a transparency, it will be having 4 elements. Okay? Any given pixel will have just 1 color. Okay? So if we have, let's assume the bottom image, we have 1, 2, 3, 9 pixels. And if you're trying to represent this in an array of 2 cross 2, it is direct way not possible. Okay? Will this situation ever arise? The question that I'm asking, let's see if someone say something in the chat. Will the situation ever arise that the image has more number of pixels and we want to compute it using less number of pixels?
Compression.
Yeah, makes sense.
Cropping.
When we are cropping, we are cutting off the image right away, isn't it? So we won't be overlapping the pixels. So over here, we can see that we are cutting through a pixel. So that does not happen when we are cropping. We are trimming off from the edges. So pixels are gone. We are not clipping the images at half. Pixels at half. So one of the way this can be visualized is, for example, in majority of our laptops, we can play YouTube in 4K. Okay. But our display is 1080p. So it has 1080 pixels left to right. But the image that we are getting from YouTube is 4K. So what happens is a concept known as image subsampling. There are multiple ways to do it. I'll give you a small brief idea of how it works, because that's not the scope of this particular session. So if we take the top left area of the bottom image, we have 4 pixels, and we want to calculate how it will look if we are using a 2 cross 2 matrix. One of the ways is we take a linear average, and that is known as a linear subsampling. There's one more way which is better, which is used by softwares. That is something that you can look up to learn. That is bicubic sampling. So in linear sampling, we take a linear equation to sample it. It takes just the nearby pixels. And bicubic one, it takes one more additional pixel, and the average is better. And that's what happens. Like we can play, let's say the game is not rendering at full HD. We can reduce the aspect ratio and play it, because what then happens is it does this downsampling. So one more thing is monochrome. Only one color channel is needed. We want to convert an image from color to monochrome. So a given color image will have just one monochrome image. एक color image देंगे तो एक ही black and white image बनेगा if you are having one particular function. But given the function and the black and white image, we cannot regenerate the color image because it is possible that multiple colors are going to give the same value in gray. So that's why it's mathematically a many to one relation. Monochrome does not necessarily mean grayscale because all the images on the right are monochrome. One is using brownish tinge, one is using a bluish tinge. Grayscale is a monochrome representation, but not the only form of representation for monochrome. The human eye sensitivity point is mentioned again because when calculating from color to grayscale, we give more weightage to green color. We'll come to the mathematical formula of that later. So we can see the top 4 images, all are grayscale, but still all look different. So the formula or the way you transform an image from color to grayscale is all up to you. And a lot of image transformation and image processing happens in grayscale because if you want to detect a face, if you want to detect an edge, all those are possible in a grayscale image itself. And since grayscale images have just one channel instead of 3 or 4, it reduces the computation time. The final major topic that I want to cover before we go into the code is something known as kernels. Kernels are small matrices which we use to modify the larger picture that we have. Let us understand. There's a blue pixel that is highlighted in the input image. And we take a section of the input image which is nearby to it of the same size as the kernel. So both are now matrices of same size. It's 3 cross 3, 5 cross 5, n cross n. We don't do a matrix multiplication. What we do is something known as convolution. The first element of the kernel, the first element of the input are multiplied. The same way, all the corresponding elements are multiplied. The second and the second, the third and the third. So in this representation, it will give us 9 values. We add them together and we replace the initial input blue pixel with a new kernel that we had. We'll understand how it works when we go into the code. One thing that I mentioned on the second point is edges are approximated. So if we take the lower part, if you want to approximate the top left gray pixel by a kernel, so when we put the center of the kernel over there, some of the elements of the kernel is overlapping with parts of the image that is not even defined because we don't have anything beyond that. So when we are using kernels, the edges are either cut off or what we do is extrapolate the image using mathematics so that we get one more additional pixel for the manipulation. But cropping off is something that is done, or else we use the adjacent pixel multiple ways. Normalize the kernel is something we'll see in the code. So चलिए कोड करते हैं. If you want to ask anything that has been covered until now, please ask. Else we'll see how it works in the code. Okay, cool. Shall we get into code? How many of you have used Python? How many of you have not used Python? Okay. Now I have asked 2 questions and people are saying me. That's really difficult to understand, but dumb me asking the silly question. Yeah. So the code that I'm trying to show you is written in Python, but no extensive knowledge of Python is needed. It's very much similar to how this will be done in Java, MATLAB, or any language. I just use Python because it's easy to run on an online framework that I'm using known as Colab. You don't need to know how Colab works. You don't need to know the internal working of Python. What we are trying to do is something that can be done in almost any programming languages. So nothing to be worried of. So let me stop sharing the screen and start sharing my code window. Sorry, I shared the wrong tab. So is something visible to you all? How should I check if it is visible? I assume it is. Yeah, good to go. Great. So I'll explain how the code works. For those of you who know Python, NumPy is a package that I'm using. It makes easy to manipulate matrices using NumPy. And Pillow is a package that is used to convert an image to an array and array to images. That's the only thing that I'm doing over here. It has multiple other functionalities we are not using right now. Apart from this, we are not using any packages. So let me get some images. Before I do that, okay, I had run the code once. I will delete all the files so that it's fresh. If anyone knows how to delete all the files at a go, can tell me. As mentioned, I'm trying to show you the maths. Even I am not an expert in Python or Colab.
Shift down arrow.
Yeah, we have an IO image. Seems like I should have been more prepared, wasting 2 minutes, but yeah, still makes sense. Yeah, so let us get the images once again. Images should be uploaded. I show what the images are. First is a JPEG image of Sundar Pichai at Google I/O 2019. Did not happen in 2020 because of COVID. And we have the poster of this workshop. One is a PNG image, one is a JPEG image. The PNG image that we have is 4 channels, so it's RGBA. Although there are no transparent areas in this entire poster, but still it's using a 4-channel PNG. So just mentioning, and we'll use both the different images to see how it all works. So explaining the code, import NumPy, import Pillow, 2 packages to help us with image to array conversion and array manipulation. Pip install, and this is something that I have done to remove the limit on the number of pixels that can be converted, to remove the number of array elements that can be converted into an image. By default, it has a limit. So to remove that, I have done this. So let us install. First things, let us try to generate a very small image, 2 cross 2 image. So it's going to be just 4 pixels from an array. The array is, let me print the array so that it's run the code. This was the array that we had, 215011411795. This is the same array that I'll be sharing the screen in a moment. Sharing my entire screen. So this particular image that we have on the top left, the 4 pixel one, that is something that we are trying to recreate. Those values like D70,000 and everything, I have converted to decimal values and put it into this array. 4 elements, 2 cross 2, and we have this. So when we print it, we get the 4 values, and this is the way we use the from array function. It converts the array to an image. That's only that you need to understand. It takes an array, converts it to an image, and then this is the function. Save it as a file named 4pixel.png. So when we try to open it, we see nothing. Or if you are using a very super high quality display, you can see there's a small red dot towards the left, top left, because it's just 4 pixels. Let us try to open it in the browser. Download to make you believe that it actually works. Okay, this does not help. So we have, I can't zoom it anymore, but this is something that we have created as an image from 4 pixels that were there in an array. So let us do something that can be more visible, because 4 pixels is too small. This second part is independent of the first part. As you can see, what I'm doing is I'm opening the image that was created 4pixel.png, and I'm printing the image. I'm not printing the original array. So if I click run, it should give the same value that was inputted towards it, because we are creating it from an array and we should be able to get the same array back. And it should match 1 to 1, and it is matching. Let us try to create a larger image which is clearly visible. So this is the part that we are trying to use. We are using 100 cross 200 pixels image, and the 3 is for 3 channels. We have red, green, blue. We have D-type np.uint8. Means we are using an 8-bit integer. That's the basics of how this np.zeros work. What happens when we use np.zeros is, it is going to create a 100 cross 100 cross 3 array. Each corresponding value will be 8-bit integer, and everything will be 0 when we initialize it, because we are using np.zeros. That's a function to invoke an array by having all values as 0. Okay, there was a package which I didn't know, that we can use Python. Okay, we have ipython.display to display the image inline. We'll do that in the next workshop. So let us try to create this. What this code does is, the left side, all the values up to 100 are populated as orange. Orange is red and half of green. So it's 255 of the red channel. Green is 128. And the same we are doing for the right part as cyan. So when we click play, it should create the image. And we have an image which has two colors. Okay. Very basics. Now let us do something on actual images. So we have, you can see an image known as Google IO.jpg. Let us try to import it and see how it looks. So this is opening the image. This is getting the array from the image. And array.shape is a function which displays the rows, columns, and the size of the array. So if we run it, we get 1800, 2400, 3. So we have 1800 pixels width, 2400 pixels height, and 3 channels, R, G, and B. As mentioned, JPEG does not support transparency, so JPEG will never have value as 4. Now let us try to convert the images that we have. Both the images, as you can see, is Google I/O. This is colored. The workshop is also colored. Let us try to convert it into grayscale. So one of the ways that we can convert to grayscale is that we take an average of all three. Red ka value, green ka value, and blue ka value. We take the average, and that becomes our grayscale value. That is one of the ways in which it can be done. Totally possible, but that's not what we are doing over here. This is an equation that I grabbed from the internet. So let us focus on this line. I selected the whole paragraph. This line. So as mentioned, it's RGB sequential. So this is that is for the R part, red part. This is a pixel that is for the green part. This is a pixel that is for the blue part. So what we are doing is we are taking something as linear combination or weighted average. We are giving maximum preference to green and lesser preference to red and blue. This is used because we are more sensitive to green. The only thing that needs to be kept in mind while using almost all the image processing manipulations is normalization. So the color ka maximum value in 8-bit is 255. So after manipulation, we don't want the color to have value more than 255. So uska matlab hai, these factors should add up to 1. Because if we have a value of maximum value at red, maximum value at green, and maximum value at blue as well, and because these factors add up to 1, it will never cross 255. So we have done these values which are not very intuitive. We can use even 0.3. That's what it is being done. Let us understand the remaining part of the code. We create an array which is named the gray array, and because gray scale requires only one channel, we are using a one channel representation. Just a second. So we can see we have used array.shape 0, array.shape 1. This takes the value that is 1800 and 2400 into the parameters, and since over here we have given a value of 3, we are not giving any value over here. So by default it takes one channel, so this is equivalent to 1. So by default it takes that. We are creating an array in which we are as of now having 0 in the gray arrays. Then what we are doing is we are looping through the original array that we had, which was the colored image ka array, and we have let us focus over here. We are calculating the value of the gray pixel from the original array that we had by taking the weighted average of red, green, and blue. And once that is done, we are storing it in the gray array. and then converting it to image and saving it as a PNG file. I'll explain this if else part. What I'm doing is, since I'm using a Google IOC image that does not have any transparency part, so this will throw an error. It should, let us see. We see that it throws an error because I'm trying to access elemented 3, which is the fourth channel, because we start from 0, 1, 2, and 3. So 3 is the fourth channel, and in RGB we just have 3 channels. We don't have the transparency in JPEG. So I was trying to access that, it gave an error. If you're using PNG, what this section of the code is doing is, if the pixel is transparent in PNG and you are converting it to grayscale, making it as white, because 255 is going to be white. I have done something wrong. It was gray at IG. Yeah. So let me come into this part because we are using, and this should work now. In the meantime, if anyone wants to ask anything until now, we're free to do it. I'll explain the sepia part as well. Sepia is something like brownish tinge which we have on the image. This was how the images used to look when we used to have older digital cameras. So the formula is something that I'll show you. Let us assume that you don't know how sepia works. We Google sepia image. So we see that something that we are modifying the values of the red, green, and blue. We are taking the original red, green, blue values and we are modifying it by using this formula and getting the new values of red, green, blue. So सारे colors, we are modifying each pixel that we had in the original image as sepia filter. These equations and formulas have come by research and hit and trial. So let's assume that you don't know how it works. So you either need to understand how the color space works, which is a bit research based topic, and so that's why we're using the direct formula that we have to convert to sepia. We have filters which do that, and what they are doing is very much similar to this. Since we have the above code finished, let us see if we have the image. It's called Gray Workshop. Okay, we had taken the Google I/O image, but we had named it as Workshop. So it is taking the I/O image and converting it to PNG, which is the grayscale, and this is what happened. Okay. We can do the same thing for sepia. So let us do the sepia thing for the workshop array. So we need to get the workshop image. We get the image done. Then we should convert it to sepia. Code is the way that I am doing it, that I am creating a new image that is going to become the sepia image. I am not overwriting the existing image. Even that can be done, because once we have calculated the sepia value of a pixel, we are not reusing it. So our top left value of sepia ho gaya, so we are not using the top left part for computing the remaining parts. So we can even overwrite it, but once you have overwritten it, you won't get the image back instantly because we are overwriting it. So even that can be done. What I've done over here is creating a new array and using it. So technically this should work. Let us see, or else we'll have to find out. As mentioned, we have 3 color channels. So this particular section of code, I'll explain. Sepia thing is done. Let me show. So it gives a sepia tinge to the image of the workshop. So we can tune these values, these parameters, to have different shade of sepia. So using different shade of sepia, you will get different tinge of sepia in the outcoming image. Okay. So now let us try to do extract the color channels, because as mentioned, we have multiple color channels and each channel is storing one particular color. The entire code that I'm trying to show, I'll be very frank, is not optimized. The code that I've written can be optimized way further. So what I'm trying to explain is just the concept. Don't try to use this code in something production level, because these are not optimized and these can be done way faster. Okay. So I have created 3 arrays. Once again, wasting the space just to show the concept. Things can be optimized. Okay. One to show how it looks in the red channel, one to show in the blue channel, and one to show in the green channel. Okay. What I'm doing is, we have the original image. I'm storing the red part, the red array, the blue part in the blue array, the green part in the green array. Very basics. Extracting the pixels of red and putting in the red color image and separating it. Let's run it. It's done. Let's see. We have red workshop. We have green workshop. And we have blue workshop. The reason why these areas are so dark in blue, green, and red individually, because that's how RGB works. Because all the 3 is going to add up and going to give this white color. So if you have white, it is going to be individually dark in red, green, and blue. And because it's white, it's composed of equal values of all of them. So it's dark. So let us see. We have DSC ka logo, a green part. Let us focus on that part. So it has negligible red area. So in the red color space, the green area is black. The blue color space, it has some value, so it means that it's not pure green. It has some value of blue in it. And in green, you can see it has pretty good shade. And the reason why the background of this green area is more brighter than the actual green color that we saw in the logo is because we have the full value of green when we are generating white. We have like green as 255, blue as 255, and red as 255. All of them at full value when we are generating white. So that is how the different color channels store the colors. And okay, any queries up till now, or else we'll go to the kernel wala part. I'll explain how it works. Okay, let us proceed. So I have written over here, we are using a 5x5 box blur. I'll run the code first and then explain how it works, because if I'm not wrong, this code takes some time to execute. So we have the array printed. So let me show the kernel. So this description that I showed is using a 3x3 kernel in the image, but in the code we are using a 5x5. So we can use any type of kernel. So that particular array has values all as 1. So value 1 है, ठीक है? So let us assume जो अंदर वाला जो block था, that is having different colors. What is happening is that since it is all 1, so it is equivalent to just adding the values of those pixels, because we are just multiplying by 1 and just adding it. What is happening is we are adding up all those values and taking the average. So for the blue pixel, we are replacing the blue pixel by a replacement pixel, which is the average of the remaining pixels, not remaining, the surrounding pixels. Yeah. So the concept that I said of normalization, we have the kernel over here, which has the values 1. So if we add it all, we need to divide by the total sum, because else the color will cross the limit of 255 in 8-bit image. So if it is 255 in all the areas, once we add it, it becomes 255 into 25. We need to divide it to normalize it. So that is something that I have done over here. Explaining the code, opening the workshop image, creating an array, a new array which is going to store the image after we do this manipulation. Okay. We are using something known as box blur. So as we can understand that we are taking the average of the nearby pixels. So the original image is going to get a bit blurry because आसपास के pixel is getting averaged. That's how blurring is supposed to work. So we are running through. So we can see that I have done -2 over here, -2 over here, and starting from 2. As for the initial values, as mentioned, you can see my mouse, which I assume you can. So ये वाला pixel calculate करना है, like the top left. If you want to calculate, if you put the kernel over it, we need the image, just pixel from above and left of it. We need to have the entire kernel size matrix center of the pixel that we are calculating. We want to have a kernel size matrix centered of the pixel that we are calculating. So if you're using the top left, we don't have any pixel surrounding it to calculate. So I'm cropping off the 2 pixels from each end to make sure that we don't run into out of bounds error. There are other ways to handle this. The other ways are like you use extrapolation to calculate the remaining pixels, or you wrap the image around. Like, so if you want to get the image towards the left of it, we use a nearby pixel or the opposite pixel from the very other end to wrap the image and get the value. As of now, we are cropping off those pixels and not using it. So I'm starting from 2 and going to length -2, because the range is from 0 to 4 or 5 elements per row. So the new pixel, I'm using the value sum for that, just initialized as 0, and then I'm using the kernel and doing matrix multiplication. It's basic, not matrix multiplication. I'm multiplying the values individually and then adding it to the sum, and after the for loop, dividing by the 25, because that's the value of the sum for this normalization. If things go well, this should show something to us, because I've run the code. So let us see if we have it side by side to we have a bit more clarity. This is the workshop ka image. This is the blurred image. I wonder if you all can see the difference on call. This is something known as box blur. To have more blurring effect, what we can do is increase the size of this kernel. So we are taking average of the nearby 25 pixels. If we increase it to, let's say, the next square 749, so it's going to be 7 cross 7 array, and we are taking the average of 49 pixels. So the bigger the kernel for this box blur that we have, more blurred it is going to be. Yeah. There is something known as Gaussian blur. That is something that I am trying to showcase, and if I'm not wrong, that is the last part of the code demo. Okay, there was something else that I missed that I should have used. Okay, we have. Great. So Gaussian blur is a different kind of blur. What it does is it puts more priority to the pixels near the calculated pixels. So if we are using it for the blue pixel, initially we are taking average. So we can take a weighted average. The center pixel will have more value and nearby pixels will have less weightage. So this will give a blurred image, but still the edges are preserved. And Gaussian blur is something that is used in majority image processing, pre-processing part, because we don't need a very high definition image, so we can reduce the complexity of the image by using Gaussian blur. Gaussian blur by default does not reduce the pixels of the image. So if you have a 100 cross 100 image, it's going to be still 100 cross 100 after the blur, even box blur, but the amount of details get reduced. So that's what happens. So Gaussian blur is something. Let us try 3 cross 3. I'll leave it for some other day. I'll show the matrix. So if it is 3 cross 3, so since we are doing it with a sum that is coming to 4, we'll have to divide by 8. And this is how Gaussian blur works. It's very much similar when you look at it from your own eyes, but Gaussian blur works very differently internally because we are using a different kernel itself. And the reason why we are learning kernels is because almost all the image processing, all the image manipulation can be done by using kernels which have different values. These factors, when multiplied by the image, will give different resulting image. And that's how it works. So we want to show something else. Yeah, this is a kernel that is doing edge detection. Let me print the kernel to explain you how it works. Okay, we have some error which we'll fix. So we have the kernel which has the value 1, -1, -1, 0. So what is happening is, since we have opposing values, and remember that we are taking the input of the center pixel and replacing the center pixel. We are not doing anything else. We are using the remaining pixel to calculate, but हम center pixel का value एक iteration में change कर रहे हैं, ठीक है? So this, what is doing is, when the nearby pixels have different values, because it's 1, -1, -1, and 1, when they have different values, the center pixel is going to have white color. Okay? And in the remaining time, let's assume that the nearby pixels are of same color. So अगर सब में red है, let's assume, so 1 into red, then we do minus red, and we do minus red once again, and then plus red. So it cancels out. So when the pixels are of similar color, it cancels out, and 0 in color space is represented as black. So when you do edge detection, the edges come out as white or dark, not dark, like light gray, and the remaining part come out as black. Okay? So we can use different kernels to do the same. So this is something that is using the values 1, -1. So it will not calculate the edges very efficiently because it will only calculate very prominent edges. If you want to do more if you want to print even the lighter edges, small edges, we use a different kernel. So this is something that can be used, which has values all as 1, the center pixel as -8. Very much similar to this value, So if we have a area which is of single color, this all adds up to 0. It shows black, and in the edge detection wala area, it shows a color of white. Edges are areas where sharp color changes happen. So the text that we have in this image, the boundaries of them are edges. So let us try to do it. Let us use a gray image, because a colored image ka edge detection is something which is possible, but not we are covering right now. So we can calculate where the green colors edges happen, and using it directly with application, I'm not really sure. But this particular concept of edge detection is used in multiple places. So if we are having a gray image, we directly use it. Or the other way around is we can have colored image converted to gray and use it. This Gaussian blur that I showed is something that I'll explain is used for edge detection pre-processing. So we need a gray image first. So we have, if I'm not wrong, gray workshop, which is actually the IOK image. So we use gray workshop.png, we import, and as mentioned, this is not the optimized code. So I'm creating a new image to showcase how it looks after edge detection. And since it is going to be like black or white or shades of gray, I'm using a single channel representation. So as mentioned, like if I do comma 3, it's going to be 3 channels. Right? If you do 4, it's going to be transparency of the channel as well. By default, it takes monochrome 1 channel. So we are doing it. And you can see over here, I have not divided by any value because this particular channel is already normalized. So we don't have to normalize it once again. If we click play, you should be able to see something. While the code is running, let me cover some parts that I missed out. Optimizing matrix multiplication, because as you saw, majority part of what we are doing is playing with matrices. So taking convolutions, doing matrix multiplication is at the very heart of how images are processed. And as it is said, if you want to do it faster, bring in the GPU or the graphic card. So why is it that we're doing this, not the CPU? So for this, we need to understand something known as parallel processing. So what we are doing is we're trying to calculate multiple things at the same time. So let us look at the lower matrix manipulation calculation that is being done. So we have the value 140, which is calculated by multiplying 1, 2, 3 sequentially with 10, 20, and 30. Okay? And we can see that the value 140 can be calculated independently of the remaining values 146, 320, and 335. So let's assume we have 4 friends competing together for some contest, and the contest is to multiply this matrix. So if the 4 friends work together, that I calculate the first value, you calculate the second, because all the 4 are independent. If all of them have this input matrix, they can individually calculate one element each, and at 1/4 the total time, they can calculate the matrix multiplication value. So this is one of the ways to help you understand that matrix multiplication can be done parallelly. This is not the most optimized way. Once again, I mentioned there are mathematical ways where you can split a matrix and make it small and do it, but still it uses the concept of parallel processing. So you can wonder like why are we using the graphic card for parallel processing and why not the CPU itself? Our CPUs in laptops we have dual core or quad core, which is 4 cores, and my laptop, which is a non-gaming laptop, has a decent graphic card and it has 300 cores. So my graphic card has 300 cores and my CPU has just 2 cores. So that's the reason why we use the graphic card for this matrix manipulation, and that is the reason why games use graphic card, heavy computational graphic card, because all of the video processing and image processing from vectors to rendering scenes, all are matrix manipulation, and each of them can be done independently. So that's oh. Yeah. So that's the reason why we use parallel processing. So if we have an n cross n matrix, the very basic matrix multiplication algorithm is going to be O n cube in complexity. What it is meant is that we have 2 cross 2 matrix and then we have an n cross n matrix. So the graph, if you draw, time taken to multiply versus the number of rows / columns, it's going to be a cubic graph. So like it increases at a very steep rate. Okay. When you're using image processing, almost all the programming languages have some modules which do matrix multiplication for us instead of us writing it. There are non-intuitive algorithms which you can read about, which do in less time. It is not something which can be visualized, that how can we reduce the complexity from cubic to less than cubic. So there's an algorithm known as Strassen's algorithm, which makes it O n power 2.8. This log is base 2. So, and there are further algorithms which reduce it to O 2.2 or something. So these are algorithms which can speed up the process of matrix multiplication, and each small factor which is making the multiplication faster is going to help in the long run, because if you are playing a game at 30 FPS, it's rendering 30 images at the very minimum per second, and it has got other tasks as well to do. Like when we are playing the game, it's not just the scene that is happening. The player is moving and lots of other things are happening. So matrix multiplication at high speed is something that is in demand. If you find an algorithm which does it faster than the present existing industry standards, you can expect big bounty awards. Let us see how the edge detection worked. Okay. This looks weird at first sight, but still, let us try to understand what is the meaning of this. What happened is, the first thing that we need to understand is we need to look at the original IO image. So you can see that if we zoom in, we have the pixels which have already values changing at a very small interval. So almost everything of it is showing as an edge. So the areas that you see as black, they have like consistent areas. To get a better understanding of, let me try to do for the workshop PNG. So let me do this. In the meantime, if you all have doubts, queries, concerns, Feel free to unmute and ask. I'll try to have a better example of edge detection by then. So we have a gray image, which is a bit more clean with respect to edges. So let us use that. The reason why we do Gaussian blur before this particular edge detection can be visualized from what just happened. Like it was showing edges at all possible values. So what we can do is we can blur the initial image so the minor edges are like washed off. They get averaged out and the edges vanish off. So before we do edge detection, we do blur, and once the blur is done, we do edge detection. And this helps us to remove the small edges that we have. And we just get only the prominent edges. So let me see if we have something better. So we can see it shows the edges only at places there is sharp change. And this blurriness that is there is because the original image is not something that I'm using. It is something that is of low quality. So if we change the kernel, as mentioned, we are using kernel 1, which is something which shows only very prominent edges. Let us try to use kernel 3, which is giving more priority to the edges. If I change the kernel, make it kernel 3. So we see that we get a better visualization of the edges. So using different kernels, this is possible. So that is pretty much of what I had to cover. So what's next? So if you're someone who wants to go ahead and further ahead from the workshop, because it's always good to have curiosity and you must do it, things that you can do from what I have shown is optimize the code, because as mentioned, this code is not optimized. We are doing multiple matrix manipulation and convolutions. We can have maybe a function for that which does it. This is something that is done in Python. The very same thing can be done in all the languages. So you can use the same concept in different language and implement it. You are like, we'll be happy if you write an article on the same of how you learned or how you do it, maybe a to-do article. We'll be glad to publish it in our publication on Medium. And this code that I have done, it will be shared on our GitHub. It's not yet shared. So if any of you optimize the code or write it in a different language, the code is there on our GitHub. Send a pull request, we'll merge it so that others can refer, so that we can make it better. So if you optimize it or write it in a different language, send a pull request, and this recording will publish it to YouTube. It will be published on this channel, which is DSC NIT Rourkela, and that is all that is from my end. Thank you all for being patient and listening to me. And if you have any questions, concern, unmute and ask. You are free to unmute and ask.